I'd always believed that when love died in a marriage, it wouldn't be quiet, that it would roar shouting matches, doors slamming, accusations hurled like stones. But when mine began to unravel, it did so in silence. A sigh, a pause before answering, cold hands in bed, words spoken with forced smiles, and then a cup of coffee. That morning was oddly serene. Golden sunlight spilled across the kitchen tiles, birds chirped outside the window, and the usual clatter of morning chaos was replaced by an eerie stillness. I was still in bed when Rishi walked in holding a mug, his expression softer than usual. "Morning, sweetheart," he said, setting it down on the nightstand. "Thought I'd make your coffee for once." For once, the words sat heavy in the air. Rishi never made me coffee. Not in 7 years of marriage. I smiled up at him anyway, brushing aside the ache in my chest. "Thank you," I whispered. He kissed my forehead, dry, brief, a gesture that felt practiced, then walked out without another word. I sat up, wrapping my hands around the mug. The warmth should have been comforting, but instead I froze. The smell was off, not just burnt or strong. There was something almost metallic beneath the surface, like wet coins or rust. I sniffed it again, frowning. It wasn't my usual blend either. Too bitter, too dark. Before I could call out to him, I heard footsteps. Light, confident, Neha. My sister-in-law had moved in a month ago, just until I get back on my feet. She'd said after her supposed breakup. But I never quite bought it. Her presence lingered like stale perfume. She wore my clothes, invaded my kitchen, and somehow made herself indispensable to Rishi. She walked into the room wearing my silk scarf again and flashed her signature sugary smile. "Someone made coffee, smells strong," she chirped, eyeing the mug. I smiled tightly. "Let's have some together." Without waiting, I rose, walked to the kitchen, and poured the coffee from the mug into 2 fresh cups. When Rishi stepped away to take a phone call, something he'd been doing a lot lately, I did it. I swapped the mugs, mine with hers. Something in my gut told me to. Not fear exactly, not even suspicion, just instinct. A whisper in the back of my mind that said, "Don't drink it." We sat across from each other at the table. She took a sip, still smiling. I sipped mine, tasting nothing unusual in the second cup. I watched her. It took less than 10 minutes. She coughed first, then paled. Her hands trembled as she tried to pick up the mug again. "Weird, I feeled off," she muttered. Rishi returned, and the moment his eyes fell on her, I saw it. Panic. Not concern, not confusion. Panic. Neha suddenly gripped her stomach, eyes wide, breath shallow. She tried to stand, then collapsed, knocking the mug off the table. It shattered, liquid pooled on the floor like blood. "Neha," Rishi shouted, running to her side. I didn't move. I just sat there, watching. The coffee I hadn't drunk sat still, innocent and untouched in its clean ceramic prison. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and desperation. White walls, 2 bright lights, a place where people waited for news, for answers, for second chances. Rishi was pacing the hallway, rubbing his hands together like he could scrub away the guilt. To any outsider, he looked like a concerned brother, anxious, protective, maybe even loving. But I wasn't an outsider. I was his wife. I had watched this man lie without blinking, and he was lying now. "I don't understand what happened," he kept saying. "She just collapsed. Maybe it was something she ate." But the coffee mug had shattered on the kitchen floor, and so had the illusion. Inside the ICU, Neha lay still, pale, tubes in her arms, oxygen hissing softly. Her once vibrant face was now sunken, lips dry, skin clammy. I watched through the glass window and wondered how many lies she had told me while sipping tea in my living room. The doctors came out after what felt like hours. "We're stabilizing her," one of them said, "but we found traces of thallium in her blood. Poisoning, deliberate, poison." The word echoed like a gunshot in a cathedral. Rishi's mask slipped, for half a second. His eyes darted to me, then back to the doctor. Poison, that can't be right, that's insane. The detective arrived not long after, stern eyes, clipboard in hand. He asked questions, wrote things down. I played my role, the quiet wife, the shaken family member. Not a word about the coffee swap, not a hint of what I suspected. I knew better. If I said something now, it would only be my word against his. There was no proof, no witness, no fingerprints on the mug, no security cameras. Rishi had wiped his tracks clean. And Neha, she hadn't said a word. She hadn't even opened her eyes. But something in her expression, the moment before she collapsed, haunted me. That fleeting flash of realization. She knew. She had known what was in the cup, just not that it was hers. That night back home, the house felt colder than it had ever been. Rishi didn't speak to me. He kept his distance. I could hear him on the phone behind closed doors, low voices, whispered panic. I stood in the hallway, listening to the same words over and over again. She wasn't supposed to drink it. We have to be careful now. Don't talk to anyone. He didn't even try to hide it anymore. I went back to our bedroom and sat in the dark, staring at the bed we shared. My hands trembled, but not from fear. From fury. Everything came together like pieces of a shattered mirror. The coldness, the disappearing money, the evasive glances, Neha's sudden arrival, and that night 2 weeks ago when I'd heard him on the phone whispering, "Soon, she'll be out of the way soon." They were planning to kill me. Slowly, quietly, in a way that wouldn't raise suspicion. Poison in the coffee over weeks, maybe months. Until I was just another tragic accident, but they'd made a mistake. I had lived, and now I was going to find out everything. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Rishi had tried to poison me. Neha, my own sister-in-law, had helped him, but I didn't fall apart. I sharpened. For 2 weeks, I played the role he expected of me, the grieving, confused wife. I brought tea to his desk. I smiled when he touched my waist. I even pretended to worry when the detective came by again for questions. I let him believe he had fooled me, and while he was watching for weakness, I was building a weapon. Late at night, after he fell asleep beside me, his breathing steady, guiltless, I got to work. His laptop was locked, but I had watched his fingers for years. The password was Neha's birthday. Disgust rose in my throat as the screen blinked to life. He hadn't even tried to hide it. Emails, messages, photos, bank transfers. There were dozens of messages between him and Neha, disguised as casual chats about life and the future, but coded beneath the surface. References to starting fresh, getting out from under, handling the wife. One message chilled my bones. Once she's gone, we sell the house, you and I, finally free. But Neha wasn't the only one. A different folder, buried deeper, held messages to another woman, a young, polished finance consultant named Annika. He had promised her the same things: freedom, a new life, a beach house in Goa. She had no idea he was married, let alone plotting murder. I didn't delete anything. Instead, I started saving it. I bought a cheap burner phone and created a private cloud account. Uploaded every damning message, every screenshot, every transaction. I printed documents and hid them in the lining of my suitcase, just in case. Then came the real twist. I found a hidden phone in Neha's suitcase, taped beneath the lining. Probably a burner they used to avoid detection. It still had a few texts on it. Rishi, make sure she drinks it tomorrow. Just be casual. Neha, she's suspicious. What if she switches it? Rishi, she won't. She trusts you. Smile. Act dumb. She had tried to warn him. She'd known, and she had done it anyway. Neha was still in the hospital, slowly recovering. The doctors said she'd live, but her nervous system might never be the same. I should have felt pity. I didn't. I felt clarity. I saw it all clearly now. I wasn't the broken woman they thought I was. I was the only one still standing. So I began planting seeds. I met Annika under a false name, told her I was investigating a potential scammer. Within a few days, she called me in tears. Rishi had promised her a life he couldn't give, lied about everything. She agreed to forward all their chats. Next, I called the detective and pretended to suddenly remember. The coffee cups had been switched. I told him I thought I had been the target, not Neha. I gave him just enough for suspicion, not everything. Why? Because this wasn't about justice. Not yet. This was about control. I wanted Rishi to sweat, to watch his walls crumble, to feel the fear I had felt as I sat across from him with a poisoned cup. And most of all, I wanted to be the one who destroyed him. From the inside out.